The abandoned village on the outskirts of Abuja lay silent under the moonless night. Ameka dug methodically, the shovel cutting through red earth with each deliberate thrust. Sweat poured down his face despite the cool harmattan breeze that swept through the crumbling mud houses. Every few moments, he paused, scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. Nothing. Just the distant cry of night birds and the rustling of dry leaves. When the hole reached sufficient depth, he returned to his Mercedes, parked beneath a dying baobab tree. In the boot lay Amara, his wife, barely conscious. Her chest rose and fell in shallow, painful breaths. Her eyes, once bright with love and trust, now stared blankly at nothing. She couldn't speak, couldn't move, paralyzed by the poison coursing through her veins. Ameka looked down at her without pity, without remorse. "Tonight is your last night, dear rich wife," he whispered, his voice cold as the Abuja night. "This is your final place." 3 years earlier, Amara had been the envy of Abuja's elite society. The only child of Chief Oluchobis, one of Nigeria's wealthiest industrialists, she inherited his vast empire when cancer claimed him. At just 28, she controlled manufacturing companies, real estate holdings spanning from Metoma to Asakoro, and investments worth billions of naira. But Amara's greatest treasure wasn't her wealth, it was her husband, Ameka. She had met him at the University of Abuja, a charming economics student with dreams bigger than his pocket. While her friends warned her about fortune hunters, Amara saw only love in his eyes. When they married in a lavish ceremony at the National Mosque, she made a decision that shocked Abuja's business community. She signed everything over to him. "Love means trust," she had told her father's concerned advisors. "What's mine is his." For 3 years, they lived in a sprawling mansion in Asakoro, the heart of Nigeria's power center. But no child came. Ameka always had an excuse: the timing wasn't right, they needed to stabilize the business, there was too much stress. Then, unexpectedly, Amara became pregnant. In her joy, she made a new decision: once the baby arrived, ownership of the companies would transfer to the child. It seemed like the perfect plan to secure her family's future. She had no idea this decision would sign her death warrant. Now, as Ameka buried his wife in that forgotten village, covering her with earth and lies, he felt nothing but satisfaction. The deed was done. The obstacle removed. His plan was finally complete. He dusted off his hands, climbed back into his Mercedes, and drove back toward the glittering lights of Abuja, leaving behind the woman who had given him everything. The hidden house in Wuse 2 was everything Ameka's real life represented: beautiful, deliberate, and built on lies. Soft golden lights glowed along walls painted in warm earth tones. Fresh flowers from Garki market filled crystal vases. The air conditioning hummed quietly, a luxury in Abuja's relentless heat. Sarah lay on the bed, one hand circling her swollen belly. She had been Ameka's secret for over a year, hidden away in this comfortable prison while he played devoted husband to Amara. "How long am I going to be hidden?" Sarah's voice cut through the silence, sharp with impatience. "You said you would send her away, but nothing has happened." Ameka turned to face her, his expression calm and controlled. "Do not worry. It is just a few months more. She still has one important thing in her hands, the final company transfer documents. Once I collect it, I will know how to remove her completely. After that, you will be my official wife." Sarah's eyes softened as she rubbed her stomach. She could already see it: her name on the mansion's deed, her face in the society pages, her child inheriting the empire. That same night, back in the Asakoro mansion, Amara wandered through empty rooms, unable to sleep. Her hand rested protectively on her own pregnant belly. Something felt wrong, though she couldn't name it. The massive house, with its imported Italian marble and French chandeliers, felt cold despite their expensive furnishings. When Ameka finally arrived home past midnight, she was waiting in the living room. "Babe, what happened?" She rushed to him, worry etched on her face. "Did you lose the contract?" Ameka sank into a leather sofa, rubbing his forehead with practiced exhaustion. "I lost it again. That is why I am late. I have spent too much money on it, but it keeps slipping away. Someone said he can help me, but I need more money. And right now, I am completely broke." Amora's heart ached for him. She touched his shoulder gently. We will survive it. Come and shower and eat first. We will solve it. How? His question came sharp, almost challenging. Amara smiled, the smile of a woman who believed love conquered all. Everything is under control. Hours later, as midnight settled over Abuja, Amara woke her sleeping husband. She placed a document in his hands, transfer papers for her last remaining company, Aluchobis Manufacturing, worth over 2 billion naira. Sell this, she said softly. Use it for the contract. Your success is my success. Ameka sat up, pretending shock. Amara, are you sure about this? This is your last savings, one of your father's companies. I know it is the last thing I am holding, Amara replied, her voice filled with trust. But I am still holding a lot. I am holding you. I love you, and you love me. Go and win, my love. Ameka nodded slowly, then laughed, a deep, quiet laugh that never reached his eyes. In that moment, he knew she had given him everything. Every last thing her father had left behind. And the next thought rising in his mind was cold and clear. The only thing left to do now was to get rid of Amara and bring Sarah in as his official wife. His smile grew in the darkness while Amara rested peacefully beside him, completely unaware of the danger sleeping next to her. Morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Asokoro mansion. Amara moved slowly down the curved staircase, her pregnancy making each step deliberate. She had just settled onto the white leather sofa when Ameka's phone began ringing on the coffee table beside her. She ignored it at first. Ameka was upstairs showering, getting ready for another day of business meetings. The phone stopped, then started again immediately. The persistence annoyed her. Amara picked it up, intending to tell the caller he was unavailable. I missed you, love, a woman's voice purred through the speaker, warm and familiar in a way that made Amara's blood run cold. Before Amara could respond, the woman continued, her voice excited and comfortable. Before you leave for work, please come to my side and feel your baby. We are both missing you so much. Amara's hand began to shake violently. Her throat tightened. Then came the words that shattered her world completely. And if you have already gotten rid of that foolish rich woman, I would be beside you right now. The phone slipped from Amara's fingers. Tears spilled over instantly, rolling down her cheeks without control. Her whole body trembled as the truth crashed over her like the floods that came to Abuja every rainy season, sudden, devastating, washing away everything she thought was solid ground. When Ameka emerged from the bathroom minutes later, he found Amara on their bed, face buried in her palms, shoulders shaking with sobs. Babe, what happened? Why are you crying? He rushed to her with perfect concern. Babe, Amara whispered through her tears, what are your plans for me? Are you here to use me and dump me? Ameka's heart jumped, but his face transformed immediately, shocked, hurt, offended. He knelt before her, taking her hands. Amara, what are you saying? Who is putting these things in your head? I heard. She couldn't finish. No, babe. Listen to me. His voice was gentle, soothing. There are people who envy us. People who cannot stand how strong our marriage is. They will do anything to destroy us. He cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. Babe, I love you. You know how people are. Once they see a happy home, they start calling, lying, acting like they know things. Please don't let jealousy destroy what we have. Amara wanted to believe him. She needed to believe him. The alternative was too painful to bear. You are my wife, Ameka continued, pulling her into his arms. You are the mother of my child. You are everything. Do not let strangers control our home. Amara leaned into him, still hurting but calmer. Not because she believed, but because she didn't know what else to feel. Let me get you a drink, Ameka said softly, standing up. You need to calm down a little. As he walked toward the kitchen, the concern vanished from his face. Behind his gentle smile, a different plan was already unfolding. If she was starting to suspect, he needed to act faster than planned. In the kitchen, Ameka opened a cabinet and pulled out a small packet he had kept hidden for months. He poured orange juice into a glass, then emptied the contents of the packet into it, watching the white powder dissolve without a trace. A slow, satisfied smile crept onto his lips. "My mission will be completed today," he whispered to himself. He returned to the living room with the poisoned drink, his face once again a mask of loving concern. The drink did its work quickly. Within an hour, Amara felt her limbs growing heavy. She tried to speak, but her tongue wouldn't cooperate. Her vision blurred. She reached for Ameka, but her hand fell uselessly to her side. "Just rest, babe," Ameka said, watching her with cold eyes. "You are just stressed. Sleep will help." By evening, Amara lay on the bedroom floor, barely breathing. She could hear everything, understand everything, but her body wouldn't respond. She was trapped inside herself, conscious but paralyzed. Ameka made calls throughout the day, telling their staff the madam was resting and shouldn't be disturbed. He sent the housekeeper home early, claiming he would take care of his wife personally. By nightfall, the mansion was empty except for him and the dying woman on the floor. He stood over her, looking down without emotion. "You fool," he said softly. "You gave me everything, and you thought it was love." His voice was conversational, as if discussing the weather. "I never loved you. Not even for one day. You were only useful. And now your time is finished." Amara tried to cry, but even tears wouldn't come. She could only listen as her husband, the man she had trusted with everything, calmly explained how he had planned this for months, how Sarah was pregnant with his child, how he would now live the life he always wanted without the burden of a wife who thought love meant something. "Today is your last day, dear wife," he said, checking his watch. "I have to go check on my real family now. But do not worry, I will make sure you are properly buried." He wrapped her in a blanket and carried her to his car. The drive to the abandoned village took over an hour, heading northwest from Abuja into the rural areas where questions were never asked and darkness hid everything. As Ameka dug the grave, his phone rang. It was Sarah. "Ameka, please come quickly. I'm feeling somehow. It's like the baby is about to come." His hands froze on the shovel. Sarah was in labor. His real child was about to be born. He needed to finish this and get to the hospital immediately. He worked faster, the hole growing deeper. When it was ready, he returned to the car. Amara lay in the boot, her eyes closed, her breathing so faint it was almost undetectable. Only the slight rise and fall of her chest showed she still clung to life. "Tonight is your last night," he whispered, looking at her one final time. "This is your final place, dear rich wife." He buried her quickly, piling red earth over the blanket-wrapped body. Within 20 minutes, it was done. The grave looked like nothing more than a slightly raised patch of ground among the weeds. In a few weeks, even that would disappear. Ameka dusted off his hands, climbed into his Mercedes, and drove toward Abuja Central Hospital, where his new life was waiting to begin. Behind him, in the shallow grave, Amara lay dying, but not yet dead. 16 years is a long time. Long enough for a man to forget the evil he's done. Long enough to build a new life on the bones of the old one. Long enough to become respected, admired, even loved by people who never knew the truth. Ameka stood outside the gleaming glass tower that housed his corporate headquarters in Abuja's Central Business District. Cameras flashed as reporters crowded around him. He had become exactly what he always wanted, one of the richest men in Nigeria, a philanthropist, a man whose generosity was praised in every newspaper. "Sir Ameka," a reporter called out, "your foundation has helped over 5,000 widows. What inspired this work?" Ameka smiled humbly, the perfect image of compassion. "I believe in giving people a second chance. Life is full of pain, but also hope." The crowd applauded. Beside him stood Sarah, elegant in her designer wrapper and gold jewelry, playing the role of devoted wife perfectly. And in front of them both was Angel, their 16-year-old daughter, sharp, brilliant, confident, and groomed from birth to inherit the empire built on her mother's back. What Ameka didn't know was that the past he had buried was digging itself out. Somewhere in that same city, in an office building just as tall and twice as modern, another woman sat behind a desk. Her name was Amara Aluchebis, though the world knew her by a different name now. She was alive. Not just alive, but thriving. The night Ameka buried her, a hunter from a nearby village had been returning from checking his traps. He saw the Mercedes, saw a man digging, and hid in the shadows, curious. After Ameka drove away, the hunter approached the grave. Something felt wrong. He listened carefully and heard the faintest sound, a breath, barely there, but present. He dug frantically, uncovering Amara just minutes before her last breath would have escaped. He carried her back to his village, where his wife, a retired nurse, used every skill she possessed to save the dying woman. It took weeks. Amara was in a coma for 2 months. When she finally woke, her baby had been born, a beautiful girl the hunter's wife had delivered and kept alive against impossible odds. The hunter, whose name was Obi, asked no questions. He simply told Amara, "God sent me to save you. That means you have a purpose still to fulfill." For months, Amara recovered in Obi's village. When she was strong enough, she told him everything. About her father's empire, about the gold reserves he had hidden for emergencies, information she had never shared with Ameka. About the man who had stolen everything and tried to kill her. "I will help you," Obi said simply. But not for revenge. For justice. It took years. Years of building a new company under a modified version of her father's name, a small company. Years of strategic moves, careful planning, staying invisible while becoming powerful. Years of raising her daughter, Adana, in secret, giving her the best education while teaching her the value of everything her mother had lost. And now, finally, after 16 years, Amara was ready. Her company had grown massive, threatening Ameka's empire. Her daughter was enrolled in the same elite school as Angel, outperforming her in every subject. And Ameka had no idea the ghost he created was coming for everything he had stolen. The game had begun. And this time, Amara held all the cards. The prestigious Abuja International Academy was not a school, it was a statement. Children of politicians, diplomats, and business moguls walked its marble hallways. The building looked more like a luxury hotel than an educational institution, with air-conditioned classrooms, indoor swimming pools, and a library that rivaled the National Library of Nigeria. Angel Ameka had been the undisputed queen of this kingdom for years. Top of her class, captain of the debate team, featured in magazines as the future of Nigerian business. Her parents made sure everyone knew she would inherit Ameka Industries one day. Then Adana arrived. She was quiet at first, this new girl with the calm eyes and modest demeanor. She didn't wear designer accessories like the other students. She didn't brag about her parents' wealth. She simply sat in class and absorbed everything like a sponge. The shift happened during advanced mathematics. The teacher wrote a complex problem on the board, the kind that usually required calculators and several minutes to solve. "Who can solve this?" she asked. Silence filled the room. Students looked at each other nervously. Even Angel, who normally raised her hand immediately, stared at the equation with uncertainty. "Ma, I can try." The voice came from the back of the class. Everyone turned. It was Adana. She walked calmly to the board and solved the problem in under 3 minutes, explaining each step clearly and confidently. When she finished, the teacher's eyes widened. "Beautiful work," she said, genuinely impressed. "Class, clap for Adana." The room erupted in applause. But Angel didn't clap. Her jaw tightened. Her hands curled into fists under her desk. She felt something unfamiliar and burning, fear. Fear that someone might take what she believed was rightfully hers. The video appeared online that same evening. Someone had recorded the classroom moment and uploaded it to social media with the caption, "New student outshines Ameka's daughter, is Angel losing her crown?" Within hours, it went viral. News blogs picked it up. Comments flooded in. Parents discussed it. And most painfully for Angel, reporters began asking questions. At home, Sarah watched the video on her phone, her face growing darker with each replay. When Ameka walked in from work, she showed it to him immediately. That girl is taking over our daughter's position, she said, her voice tight. Everyone is talking about it. Ameka watched the video carefully. Something about the girl's face seemed familiar, though he couldn't place why. Who is she? He asked. Her name is Adana, Sarah said. Adana Aluchobis. The room went still. The name hung in the air like smoke. Ameka's face didn't change, but his eyes did, just for a second, a flash of something cold and afraid. Aluchobis, he repeated carefully. Yes, Sarah confirmed. Like your late wife's family name. Ameka forced a dismissive laugh. It is a common name. Many people share it. But even as he said it, his mind was racing. A girl named Aluchobis. A company called Asmo, so similar to Amara's Mo. A competitor that had emerged from nowhere with incredible power. Coincidences were starting to stack up, and Ameka didn't believe in coincidences. Find out everything about this girl, he told Sarah quietly. Her parents, where they live, everything. Tomorrow. That night, Ameka couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, while beside him Sarah snored softly. His empire was being threatened. His daughter was being outperformed. And a name from his buried past kept echoing in his mind, Aluchobis, Aluchobis, Aluchobis. In another part of Abuja, in a beautiful home in Metoma, Amara sat with Adana, reviewing her schoolwork. Mom, Adana said quietly, there's a girl in my class who seems very competitive. Amara smiled, knowing exactly who she meant. Angel. Adana nodded. Let her compete, Amara said softly. You are not there to fight her. You are there to be excellent. That is enough. Adana smiled and returned to her books. She didn't know the full story yet, didn't know that her brilliance was part of her mother's carefully constructed plan. She only knew her mother had survived something terrible and built something beautiful from the ashes. The war had begun. But only one side knew they were fighting. The envelope appeared on Ameka's desk like a ghost. He had been alone in his office, reviewing quarterly reports, when he looked up and saw it lying there, white, unmarked, impossible. His assistant hadn't brought it in. Security hadn't called up any deliveries. Yet there it was, sitting on top of his financial projections like it had materialized from thin air. Ameka's hands shook slightly as he picked it up and tore it open. The message inside was short, typed in simple font. Luxury makes people forget. You have forgotten your dead wife too easily. His blood ran cold. He read it again, then again, as if the words might change. But they didn't. Someone knew. After 16 years of silence, someone knew. He grabbed his phone and called security. Who came into my office in the last hour? No one, sir, came the confused reply. We have been monitoring. No one entered. Ameka slammed the phone down. His breathing quickened. He walked to the window, looking down at Abuja's traffic 30 floors below, trying to calm his racing heart. How? How could anyone know? The village was abandoned. No witnesses. Sarah didn't know the details. He had been so careful. A knock on his door made him jump. His assistant entered, looking worried. Sir, we have another problem. A small company just convinced one of our biggest partners to switch to them. The NGO support we had for 10 years, gone. Ameka turned slowly, his face carefully controlled. The person behind a small company is playing with their life, he said quietly. Nobody stands against me and wins. But even as he said it, he felt the ground shifting beneath him. This wasn't normal business competition. This was personal. This was calculated. This was revenge. Over the next few days, more envelopes appeared. On his car windshield. Slipped under his office door. Even one left on his seat at a private restaurant before he arrived. Each message was similar. The dead don't stay buried forever. What you did in darkness is coming to light. She knows. She remembers. She's coming. Ameka hired private investigators. He ordered his security team to sweep his office for bugs. He had IT check all his electronic communications. Nothing. Whoever was doing this was a ghost, leaving messages but no trail. The final message came by phone. Ameka was in his car, being driven home through Abuja traffic, when his phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, he answered cautiously. A voice responded, distorted, mechanical, impossible to identify as male or female. Ameka, CEO of a company he stole. A liar. A betrayer. A murderer. And a man of deceit. Ameka's breath caught. His driver glanced at him in the rearview mirror, but Ameka waved him to keep driving. The voice continued, calm and cold, it will be better for you if you sell your company now before you go completely bankrupt. Who is this? Ameka demanded. The call ended. Just silence, then the dial tone. When he arrived home, Sarah immediately noticed his pale face. What happened? Nothing, he lied. Just business stress. But that night, as he lay in bed, Ameka knew the truth. His past had caught up with him. And whoever was hunting him knew exactly how to hurt him, not with violence, but with exposure. With the slow, methodical destruction of everything he had built on lies and blood. Somewhere in Abuja, Amara sat in her office, watching the tracker on her phone that showed Ameka's location. Beside her, Obi, the hunter who had saved her, stood quietly. He is afraid now, Obi observed. Amara nodded. Good. He should be. Fear is only the beginning. What's the next step? Obi asked. Amara looked at her computer screen, where financial reports showed Ameka's company losing ground every day. We take everything, she said simply. Just like he did to me. But we do it legally, publicly, so everyone can see who he really is. Her phone buzzed. A message from her lawyer, he'll have no choice but to sell within 2 months. The market pressure is too much. Amara smiled, not with joy, but with justice. 2 months, she whispered. 16 years I waited. 2 months is nothing. Sarah arrived at Abuja International Academy early the next morning, dressed in an expensive Ankara suit that screamed power and privilege. She went straight to the administrative block, not bothering with pleasantries. The head of academics, Mrs. Okonkwo, looked up from her desk as Sarah entered without knocking. I need answers, Sarah said immediately. How did that video of my daughter leak online? Who recorded it? Mrs. Okonkwo stood calmly. We have been investigating, Mrs. Ameka. Teachers are not allowed to use phones during class. Student phones are collected at the gate. We don't know how the video got out. So you're telling me someone in your school violated my daughter's privacy and you have no answers? We're still investigating, Mrs. Okonkwo replied evenly. But the recording was not authorized by the school. Sarah took a breath, trying to control her anger. Fine. Then tell me about the new girl. Adana Aluchobis. Who is she? Mrs. Okonkwo sat back down and opened the file. Adana is an exceptional student. Very quiet, brilliant grades. Her mother's name is Ruth Aluchobis. Her father's name is Ameka Aluchobis. The room seemed to tilt. Sarah's eyes widened. What did you say? Ameka Aluchobis, Mrs. Okonkwo repeated, checking the file again. That's the father's name we have on record. Sarah's heart was pounding now. The same first name as her husband. The same surname as his dead wife. This wasn't coincidence. This was impossible, unless it wasn't. Where do they live? Sarah asked, her voice barely steady. I'm sorry, but that information is confidential, Mrs. Okonkwo said firmly. Sarah left the school in a daze. She sat in her car for 10 minutes, unable to drive, unable to think clearly. Finally, she pulled herself together and drove to Ameka's office. She found him in a meeting, but she didn't care. She walked into the conference room, ignoring the shocked faces of his executives. We need to talk, she said. Now. Ameka excused himself and followed her to his private office. The moment the door closed, Sarah spoke. "I went to the school. The girl's parents, her father's name is Ameka Aluchobis." The color drained from Ameka's face. He sat down slowly, like his legs might give out. "Ameka," Sarah's voice was shaking now, "what is happening?" "The business attacks, the threatening messages, now this child with your name and your dead wife's family name." Ameka stared at his desk, his mind racing through possibilities. It was impossible. He had buried Amara himself. He had felt her pulse stop. She was dead. Dead people don't come back. Unless she hadn't been dead. Unless someone had found her. Unless he had made the biggest mistake of his life. "I have everything under control," he said, but his voice was weak. "Control?" Sarah's voice rose. "Your eyes say something else. Look at me and tell me the truth. Is your wife alive?" "That's impossible," Ameka said, but he couldn't look at her. Sarah covered her mouth, tears starting to form. "Oh my God. What did you do? What exactly did you do to that woman?" Ameka stood up, his voice hardening. "I said I handle it. Focus on Angel. Leave the rest to me." But Sarah had seen the truth in his eyes. The man she had built her life with, the man who had promised her everything, had done something so terrible that 16 years later it was coming back to destroy them all. That night, Ameka couldn't eat. He sat in his study, drinking whiskey and staring at old newspaper clippings from 16 years ago. He found the article he was looking for: "Businessman's wife dies of sudden illness." He had paid good money for that obituary. Had paid the doctor to sign a death certificate without actually seeing a body. Had told everyone Amara died at home and he had buried her in her family's village according to her wishes. No one had questioned it. Why would they? He was the grieving husband. But if she had survived, if someone had found her, if she had spent 16 years planning this. Ameka poured another drink, his hands shaking. He was one of the richest men in Nigeria, with connections everywhere, with power and influence. But for the first time in 16 years, he felt completely helpless. Because you can't fight a ghost. And you can't buy your way out of the truth. 3 months passed like a countdown to Judgment Day. Ameka's company continued losing ground. Every contract he bid on went to a small company. Every partnership he relied on quietly shifted away. It was death by 1,000 cuts, slow and public and humiliating. But today was different. Today was the final exam at Abuja International Academy. Today would determine who truly deserved to inherit an empire. The exam hall was packed with parents, reporters, and even business journalists. Angel's performance had become a public spectacle, with newspapers running headlines like, "Will Ameka's heir prove her worth?" The pressure was enormous. Angel sat in the front row, looking confident but tense. She had studied harder than ever before, determined to reclaim her crown. Behind her, 3 rows back, Adana sat calmly, her posture relaxed, her eyes clear. The invigilator handed out the exam papers. "You have 3 hours. No cheating, no talking. Good luck." For 3 hours, the hall was silent except for the sound of pens on paper. Cameras positioned at the back recorded everything the school had learned from the last incident. This time, every moment would be documented officially. When time was called, students filed out exhausted. Angel looked worried. Adana looked peaceful. The results took 2 weeks to compile. During that time, Ameka received one final message. "Sell your company to Asmo before the exam results are announced. If you refuse, everything you did to Amara will be exposed to the world." This time, the message came with something new, a photograph. Old, faded, but clear enough. It showed Ameka digging in the abandoned village. The angle suggested it was taken from hiding, at night, 16 years ago. Someone had witnessed everything. Ameka's hands shook as he held the photo. He had no choice anymore. His investigators had found nothing about Asmo's owners. Every legal inquiry hit dead ends. Whoever was behind this had covered their tracks perfectly. He called his lawyer. prepare the sale documents for a small company. They win. The day of the award ceremony arrived. The school hall was transformed into something spectacular, with stage lights, red carpet, and enough cameras to make it look like a movie premiere. Parents filled the seats. Reporters lined the walls. And on stage, the school principal stood with an envelope, ready to announce the overall best student of the year. Ameka sat with Sarah and Angel. Sarah held Angel's hand tightly, whispering encouraging words. Angel's face was tight with anxiety. Adana sat in a different section. Her seat was marked, reserved for Adana Aluchobis and family, but it was empty except for her. No parents had arrived yet. The principal opened the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. This year has been remarkable for our school, particularly because of the incredible academic competition we've witnessed. The hall went quiet. After careful evaluation of all exams, projects, and assessments, I am pleased to announce that this year's first position goes to. He paused for effect. Adana Aluchobis. The hall erupted in applause. Students cheered. Parents nodded approvingly. Reporters' cameras flashed continuously. Angel's face collapsed. Sarah gripped her hand tighter, but tears were already forming in her daughter's eyes. Adana stood gracefully and walked to the stage, accepting her trophy with a quiet smile. And now, the principal continued, we will invite Adana's parents to the stage to say a few words. Everyone turned toward the empty seats reserved for her family. At first, nothing happened. Then the main hall doors opened slowly. A woman entered. Tall, elegant, wearing a stunning gold and burgundy wrapper with matching gelly. Her jewelry was subtle but expensive. Her makeup flawless. Her smile confident and warm. She walked down the aisle slowly, and with each step, the hall grew quieter. People recognized power when they saw it. This was someone important. But two people in that hall didn't see a powerful stranger. They saw a ghost. Sarah's eyes widened in recognition. She had seen this woman in photos years ago, though she looked different now. More refined. Stronger. But unmistakably the same. Ameka went completely rigid. His face turned gray. His hands gripped the armrest of his chair so tightly his knuckles turned white. Because he knew that face. He had watched that face dying on a bedroom floor. He had buried that face in red earth 16 years ago. The woman walked onto the stage and took the microphone. She looked directly at Ameka, her smile never faltering. Good afternoon, everyone, she said, her voice clear and strong. My name is Amara Aluchobis. And I am so proud to be here today. Sarah fainted. She simply dropped from her chair, unconscious before she hit the ground. The hall erupted in gasp and movement. But Ameka couldn't move. He sat frozen, staring at the impossible woman on stage. Amara stood there calmly, waiting for the commotion to die down, her eyes never leaving the man who had tried to erase her from existence. The past had finally caught up. And it was wearing a crown. The hall was completely silent now. Medical staff attended to Sarah, who was being revived with smelling salts. Reporters had their cameras ready, sensing something historic was about to happen. Students whispered to each other, confused by the tension. Amara stood on stage, still holding the microphone, looking remarkably calm. Beside her, Adana watched her mother with pride and curiosity. She had been told she would understand everything today. I feel so happy to be alive today among all of you, Amara began, her voice steady and clear. And as the CEO of a small company, it gives me great joy that my daughter won this position. Mama spread across the hall. CEO. So this was the mysterious force that had been destroying Ameka Industries. But there is a story behind my success, Amara continued. A story that brought me here today. The hall leaned forward as one. 16 years ago, I died. She paused, letting the words settle. At least, that's what the world believed. I was buried in an abandoned village. But I was not dead. Gasps filled the room. Reporters started typing frantically. I survived because a man named Obi, she gestured to the back of the hall, where an elderly man stood quietly. A hunter from a nearby village found me. He saw what happened that night. He realized I was still breathing and he risked everything to save my life. Camera swung to Obi, who nodded solemnly. Amora's voice grew stronger. I was pregnant with my daughter when it happened. My husband had poisoned me, buried me alive, and left me there to die. The hall exploded in shocked whispers. Parents covered their mouths. Students' eyes widened. He stole everything from me, my father's companies, my properties, my money, my dignity. He signed it all under his name and then tried to erase me from existence. Sarah, now conscious but weak, sobbed openly. Angel sat frozen, unable to process what she was hearing. But God sent a stranger to protect me, Amara continued. A stranger who asked for nothing in return. Who helped me rebuild. Who reminded me that I had a purpose. She smiled at Adana, who was listening with tears in her eyes, learning her full story for the first time. Everything that was taken from me has been returned. Not through theft or deception, but legally. My father left gold in a secure vault, inheritance I could only access in my darkest hour. That gold built a small company. And now, every business my husband stole has been legally repurchased and returned to my family. The applause started slowly, then grew into a roar. People stood up, moved by her story. A reporter raised her hand. Madam Amara, if we may ask, who is this husband you're talking about? Amara turned slightly, looking directly at Ameka. The best revenge is to come back stronger. And today, he has nothing on me anymore. Every camera in the hall swung toward Ameka. His face was drenched in sweat. His breathing was rapid and shallow. Angel looked at him with dawning horror. Sarah couldn't look at anyone. Another reporter shouted, Sir Ameka. Is this true? Did you attempt to murder your wife? Ameka stood up shakily, trying to leave, but reporters blocked his path. Sir Ameka, will you respond to these allegations? Did you steal her inheritance? Is Angel even your legitimate child? Security had to escort Ameka and his family out through a side door as cameras continued flashing and questions continued flying. On stage, Amara stood peacefully, vindicated at last. Adana wrapped her arms around her mother, finally understanding the strength it took to survive and rebuild. The principal approached the microphone hesitantly. Well, this concludes our ceremony. Congratulations to all students. But no one was leaving. Everyone wanted to talk about what they had just witnessed, the greatest comeback story Abuja had ever seen. Outside in the parking lot, Ameka leaned against his car, trembling. Sarah and Angel stood nearby, both crying for different reasons. Babe, Ameka whispered weakly. We can explain this. We can. There is nothing to explain, Sarah cut him off, her voice broken. You destroyed an innocent woman. And now you've destroyed us. Angel looked at the man she had called father her whole life. Did you really do that? She asked quietly. Ameka couldn't answer. For the first time in 16 years, he had no lies left, no excuses, no control. Inside the hall, Amara was surrounded by well-wishers, reporters, and business people wanting to connect with the woman who had beaten death itself. She answered questions gracefully, never mentioning revenge, only justice. Never speaking with bitterness, only strength. As she was leaving, Ameka appeared in the parking lot, pushing through the crowd. Amara, he called desperately. Amara, please. Can we talk? Just one moment. Amara paused beside her car and turned slowly, looking at him with calm eyes. You have nothing to discuss with me, she said simply. Please, he begged, stepping closer. Can I talk to my daughter? Adana is my blood. Please. Amara's expression didn't change. You have no daughter with me. The child you buried 16 years ago has no father. Only a mother who refused to die. She started to enter her car, then paused. And Ameka, I will not get you arrested. He looked up, hope flickering in his desperate eyes. Not because you deserve mercy, Amara continued, but because Angel does not deserve the pain of watching her entire world crash in front of her. She is innocent in all of this. Ameka's hope died as quickly as it appeared. Goodbye, Ameka. You built an empire on lies and stolen lives. Now live in the ruins of it. She entered her car gracefully. Adana followed. The driver pulled away slowly as Ameka stood in the parking lot, a broken man watching his past drive away victorious. 3 months later, Ameka Industries was completely bankrupt. The company was dissolved, assets sold to pay debts. Ameka and Sarah separated. Angel, traumatized by the truth, went to therapy and eventually built a relationship with her half-sister Adana. Amara never pressed charges. She didn't need to. The court of public opinion had already delivered its verdict. Ameka became a cautionary tale, the man who had everything and lost it all because he built his kingdom on someone else's grave. A small company thrived, becoming one of Nigeria's leading corporations. Amara established a foundation for abuse survivors and women who had lost everything. She told her story publicly, giving hope to those who thought they were too broken to rebuild. And every year, on the anniversary of the day she should have died, Amara visited Obi's village and laid flowers at a memorial she had built there. A memorial with one simple inscription. Here is where death tried to claim me. Here is where life gave me a second chance. Here is where my story truly began. The buried wife of Abuja had risen. And in rising, she had shown that justice delayed is not justice denied, it is justice preparing to be undeniable. This story teaches us powerful lessons that we must never forget. 1. Betrayal has consequences. Ameka thought he could bury his sins along with his wife, but evil done in darkness will always come to light. You cannot build a lasting legacy on lies, theft, and betrayal. 2. Never underestimate the power of survival. Amara was left for dead, but she refused to give up. When life buries you, remember, you might be planted, not buried. Your greatest comeback can emerge from your darkest moment. 3. Trust wisely, not blindly. Amara's love was beautiful, but her blind trust cost her everything. Love doesn't mean surrendering your security, dignity, or independence. Protect yourself even while loving deeply. 4. Justice may delay, but it never dies. 16 years seemed like forever, but truth waited patiently. If you've been wronged, don't lose hope. Keep building, keep growing, and let your success be your revenge. 5. Character over wealth. Obi, a simple hunter, showed more humanity than Ameka with all his riches. True wealth is measured not by what you have, but by who you are when no one is watching. Your call to action. If this story touched your heart, moved your spirit, or taught you something valuable, don't keep it to yourself. Backhand index pointing right, hit that subscribe button and join our family of story lovers who believe in justice, resilience, and the power of truth. Backhand index pointing right, turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next powerful story. Backhand index pointing right, like this video if Amara's comeback inspired you. Backhand index pointing right, comment below, what would you have done if you were Amara? Would you have forgiven Ameka or sent him to prison? Let's discuss. Backhand index pointing right, share this video with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late for a comeback, that buried doesn't mean dead, and that the truth always wins in the end. Coming next week, another gripping African story about love, betrayal, and justice that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Remember, your subscription supports us to keep bringing you these powerful, moral stories. Every subscriber matters. Every view counts. Every share spreads the message. Don't just watch and leave, subscribe and become part of our storytelling community. See you in the next video. Clapperboard sparkles.